Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of AWS Tech Tales. I'm your host, Matt Burke.
And I am your co-host, Samara Reaño. Welcome back, everyone.
Welcome back. So, today, folks, let us know in the chat if you've had any experience with ECS, Elastic Container Service, because we are going to dive deep into what are the common problems that you could be having, you could be facing when deploying on ECS, and how to
Mhm.
fix them.
Yep, exactly. And I remember last week, we kind of had the same ask, and a lot of the people said they played around more with ECS, work more with ECS rather than EKS. So I think that we're going to have a lot more people kind of diving into the problem today with us rather than clarifying what's going on. So
Oh,
I'm
Abdur, thanks for joining. Says no. Does not know with ECS. Immediately prove wrong.
Thank you. He checked me.
Yeah, last week we dove deep on EKS troubleshooting. We had
Mhm.
our Devin Buck says I deployed plenty of EKS, but not ECS as much. Looking, which is
Oh,
the
look at
opposite
that. We
experience
have it,
as our
yes.
viewers last week.
Mhm.
And so we're having the same guest on Mo. We'll bring Mo in a little bit, but it was really exciting to see everyone's reactions to all these different EKS problems. We had
Mhm.
them solved mostly by the chat last week as
Right.
well.
I was gonna say they kind of pulled I guess the root cause right out even before we even got to it. People were already guessing where it was, where the problem lies. So I do not foresee to have any problem getting the help from our audience today as well.
Yeah, so if you didn't tune in last week, again, you don't have to know anything about what happened last week to enjoy today's episode. But again, let us know in the chat if you've dealt with ECS before, if you're just here to learn,
Mhm.
or even where you're from, and we'll bring it on screen and we'll say hi.
Yeah, and happy Monday, everyone, by the way. So
Happy
let's get
Monday.
started.
Yeah, we technically have one more stream in Q1 because we land on the 31st.
Oh,
So,
there you go. Okay.
we're straddling that line. I can't believe we're already towards the end of it.
Can you believe that? Like, that is correct. Like, we're almost to the end of March. I guess this is the last full week. And then come next Monday, we will officially be stepping into April. Absolutely crazy to me. I feel like I was just ringing in 2025. So time
Yeah,
flies when you're having fun.
yeah. It is nuts. So, I guess, without further ado, I'll bring him up because we already have a question. Well, prepare yourself for this before we bring you in, which is, can you briefly explain ECS as I'm new to AWS? So we're going to be diving way deeper than just a simple explanation, but we can hopefully give you the overview. Now, the funny thing about these topics is that Samara and I are not containers experts at all. That's why we bring in our guest Mo, which we will do right now. Give me one
Hmm.
moment to give the transition. Mo, welcome back to the show.
Welcome
Hi,
back,
hi
Mo.
everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
And I already do see some people that were here last week for your EKS stream. However, for those new viewers this week, would you just briefly introduce yourself and then just kind of share some insights of what do you do here at AWS?
Yeah, definitely. My name is Mo, and I am a technical account manager at AWS. I'm located in the beautiful Southern California, Orange County,
They're
California.
they're rubbing it in because I'm in New York and it is rainy and cold still. And
I'm just messing with Matt.
I keep thinking April showers bring May flowers, but it's March, so I don't know what's going on.
I guess an interesting tip is that Mo is in Southern California, and I
Mhm.
am in the Northern Bay Area type of California. So there and here, we're having a very sunny weather today.
Okay, so yeah, again, I'm glad to be here, part of the ECS troubleshooting session. And I do come from a DevOps background. I mentioned this last week. Containers is one of my focus areas. So, troubleshooting, taking complex problems, how we analyze those problems, break them to simpler kind of problems, and identifying the right logs. Observability is an important part of troubleshooting, of course, and then, of course, identifying the root cause and fixing the problem.
And so
Great.
this is the show. I realized I didn't say it earlier, where we talk about real life customer problems, what you do to fix them. That is the tech tale. Mo, I guess, do you want to? I put you on the spot here, but we had this comment. Can you briefly explain ECS? What's your best explanation? Like, explain it like we're five. What is
Yeah.
ECS?
So ECS is our fully managed container orchestration service, to put it in simple terms. So if you worked with EKS, it's similar to EKS. It's this is where you run your containers when you have your containerized application. It manages containers, manage the nodes that they work on, they start on, and the whole life cycle, right? So you get the observability, you get the management, you have the managed control plane, you run containers on the worker nodes that you can manage yourself. We have different flavors of compute where containers run on. You can have it on EC2, Fargate. But again, in summary, it's a orchestration service for containers.
So, folks, if you got questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and we'll try to answer them as we move along. Mo, you brought this whole demo for us today.
Mm-hmm.
Give us the situation, what's going on, and then tell me when to start sharing your screen.
Sure, if you want to share your screen right now, that'll be good.
Yeah, let's do it.
But my screen. But yeah, so some of those slides will help answer some of the questions on what ECS is, by the way. So that's good that we have those. But yeah, so the background of this whole session, imagine you're an ECS specialist that was hired by a company, and the team has created some of the ECS resources, but are facing issues with their configuration. So you have 1 hour to troubleshoot, fix configuration issues, and have a working setup for ECS service that your team can further develop. So if you...
we have a question, which is, I feel like, is this a question or are they commenting, which is that it's different from virtualization. Containers have benefits of being portable. Yeah, that's helpful for everybody. I feel like I got that in my interview questions 6 years ago.
Yeah, so the concept of building images, right? And they're portable, you can run them on ECS. So this is a diagram architecture of what we're going to be dealing with today. It's a typical ECS cluster. So if you look at it, you have the ECS container instances. This is where your tasks are going to be running. And I'm going to quickly go over what a task is, what a service is, what a cluster is in the next slide. But you have your EC2 instances. They're part of an auto-scaling group. They are hosted in a private zone that has access to the internet through a net gateway. We have our ECR public repo where we pull the images, and this is how we start tasks that run on the EC2 instances. And we have the concept of a service, which service is basically a number of tasks that we run, and it has features such as auto healing. So if one task fails, you can specify a number, a designated or a number that you wish to have, like let's say 5 tasks, and your service will ensure that at all time you have 5 tasks running. You can also have something like auto scaling based on the load. And what we have here in this design, we have an application load balancer that is basically fronting this service, so you can access those tasks through an application load balancer through the internet. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the second slide, and for people who doesn't have, I'll go quickly. It's a refresher. Some of the key components of ECS. So you have the control plane that is managed by AWS, and you have the data plane. So the data plane is where you run your tasks. Tasks can be many containers, one or many containers. And on those worker nodes where you run your tasks, you have what's called an ECS agent. And this agent is responsible for the life cycle of the task. So this is how you run the task through the ECS agent and the Docker agent. And the ECS agent will communicate with the control plane, and it will get requests from the control plane to schedule tasks, to run the tasks, and so on. So if you look at the control plane, you have the scheduler. This is responsible for scheduling the tasks on which nodes. And you have the cluster manager, and you have the API. And this is how we interact with the control plane, through sending API requests. Okay, so this is kind of briefly an overview on the different components, mainly data plane and control plane. And I'm going to move to this. I already went through this briefly, but a cluster is a logical, ECS cluster is a logical grouping of services, tasks, and capacity providers. A service is one or more identical tasks. It's important because this is how we ensure that you have the target number of tasks running at all time. So if one of the tasks is not healthy, it gets replaced automatically. And a task is one or more containers. And the compute is, again, we have different compute options: EC2, EC2 spot, Fargate, Fargate spot. So Fargate is our serverless compute service. So you don't have to manage the worker nodes, EC2 instances. You just use Fargate, and it manages all those instances for you.
Right.
Okay, this being said, we can move to problem statement number 1.
All right.
Okay, so the team has created an auto-scaling group with 2 Amazon EC2 instances. However, the instances have not registered to the ECS cluster. When Amazon EC2 container instances are launched manually or by an auto-scaling group, a misconfiguration can prevent the instances from registering with the intended ECS cluster. So I'm going to pause for a second and jump to the AWS console screen. And I have a cluster here. And this cluster has a capacity provider configured. And this is what the first problem is about. And it's backed by an auto-scaling group, so it's of type EC2. And what the problem is, we're saying that those instances that were provisioned, and there are 2 of them, so current size 2, they are not registering for some reason with the cluster. And if you look at the container instances here, you see that there's no instances.
Okay.
So we need to go through the troubleshooting and understand why those instances did not register to the cluster.
So that being said, I'm going to throw it up on the screen. We need your help, chat. So if you see something that doesn't look right, if you've got any suggestions on where we should go to try to fix these problems, this first one, as Mo said, if I'm explaining it correctly, is that we don't have any container instances showing up in our ECS infrastructure for some reason. It's not registering. Oh, we have a good comment right away. We need to pass the ECS name to EC2. What is that? What does that mean, Mo?
Yeah, who's the person that said that? Interesting.
Yes,
Cloud Falcon Dev.
Yes.
Yep, he's on the right track.
It looks like a falcon, so it's a bird that's telling you what to do.
Yeah. So let's go through the troubleshooting process, but he's right. He's
already laughing.
He nailed it. So watch from above.
Yes.
Because he's a falcon.
Okay, the falcon, right? So okay, so again, let's assume I have no clue, right? So observability again. So first I would look at the logs, right? So if we actually go back before we look at the logs, so I mentioned something about worker nodes, right? Those EC2 instances, they have what's called an ECS agent running on them. So one of the things that those ECS agents do, they actually register those EC2 instances with the control plane, with ECS.
Okay.
So when I hear that, okay, well, you have an ASG, it created some instances, but they did not register to the cluster, the first thing I would like to do is look at the ECS agent logs, right? To see, okay, what's going on. So you can
I have a
access.
question here. This is just my own personal question. So what you're saying is that this should be a process that would happen automatically. It's not like someone manually
Correct.
just misconfigure or miss that step of configuring it.
That's correct. But in this case, we kind of purposely introduce an issue to break things, right?
Okay.
But in general, but the reason why these issues are here is I'm assuming because they can happen.
They can happen.
Be
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Whether it's an incorrect security group setup or some configuration, or you push some change that mess things up,
broke
right?
the setup. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So
Sam's saying, sorry, I have another comment. It says, this needs to be performed only in the case of EC2 machines, which is taken care of in case of Fargate launch type. See, we have our ECS experts here.
So that's one of the thing when, yes, EC2 mode, you have to kind of do management, where Fargate, it takes care of all that for you, right? That's a good point. So again, this is EC2 type. There's no Fargate here. So this problem one is straight EC2. That's why we have an auto scaling group. With Fargate, you don't deal with that. So now, how do we check the logs for the ECS agents that are running on those instances? One way is to access the instance, SSH to it, and you go to the var log folder, whatever those logs are, or CloudWatch. So now, to find out which log group in CloudWatch those ECS agent write to, we can check the user data of the instance, and typically this is where you set up the log group for those EC2 instances. So if I was to go to one of the instances, so I have an ASG here, if I look at the instances, you can see that actually 2 EC2 instances were provisioned, so that's good. So that problem is not here, but they failed to register to the cluster. So if I look at the one of the instances, let's look at
I don't want to steal your thunder. We've got some folks putting some stuff in chat. This might be what you were about to do next. So Sam says to SSH the var log ECS agent.
Yes.
Log,
right.
And then
so
no, I got one more. Sorry. I'm like ruining Mo's flow here. The chat, because the chat's got all the suggestions. And Falcon Dev is saying you can echo ECS cluster in the ECS config. Saying that, is that a spoiler, Mo?
Yes. So
I don't know. It's Cloud Falcon Dev. Are you looking up this before we can get a chance to troubleshoot? Mo's like, I want to show you guys how to, go through the process, and everyone's like, no, we know what the problem is.
This is what you do.
So yeah. So look, when you troubleshoot, sometimes you already have a strong guess on what the problem is. You go straight, but sometimes you don't. So you have to go through the elimination process, right? But what we're doing here, I'm trying to go assuming I don't know. So I want to look at the logs. So if you look at the user data of the instance, which gets configured in the ASG launch type, you'll notice that I have a CloudWatch agent, and it points to an SSM parameter, but if we look at this SSM, it will point us to the right log group name. In this case, it's gonna be the ECS workshop EC2 instance logs. So this is where the ECS agent logs get stored. Or you can do, as one of the audience mentioned, you go to the SSH to the instance and check the logs there. So let's look at the logs. And one of them is the ECS agent. And if I click on those and look for any error, you'll see here there's a bunch of agent will terminally exit, unable to register instance. So here we go. Let's expand on that. Let me know if you see my screen.
Yes.
Yeah, making it a little bit.
We already see the little red error.
Okay,
out.
so
error.
Yeah. So what does the error say?
Client exception cluster not found.
Okay, so it goes back to one of the initial, the first audience that said something about the name of the cluster. Remember? So let's see what the cluster name is, because it's saying cluster not found. So our cluster name is ECS workshop cluster. Let's look back again at the user data. And I just run a CLI command, by the way, to get the user data. You can go through the console and do the same. But if you look at the user data and look at this line here, I don't want to highlight it, you might not see, but So this is where we set up it's the cluster configuration, and we set up the cluster name. Actually, I'm sorry, it's not here. It is, let's scroll up. Where is it?
Yeah, because that one just says ECS cluster empty.
Sam
Yes,
says
here.
empty. Yeah.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. This one here.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. So ECS cluster empty,
So
right?
it doesn't
Is
have a
that,
specified cluster.
well, empty is, we're telling its name is empty, which is not correct.
Oh, really? I assumed first that it was just pointing to an empty cluster.
Yeah.
No, the name is empty.
Yes, the name is
That's
empty.
great.
And this is why if you go back here, it says cluster not found, right? Because I'm
Because
telling
it
it,
has the wrong. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
there's no empty cluster name.
Okay.
So Mo, before we go, I just want to address some of the highs in the chat. So we've got a LinkedIn user saying they're from Spain. They want some best practice on CI/CD. Next week, we're going to talk about blue-green strategies. So tune in.
Tune in for that one.
Rizwan said, "Is this your real name or imaginary one?" These are our real names.
This is us.
You can find us on LinkedIn. We are there. Don't worry.
We don't have celebrity names. This is our names.
And then Sarthak says hi. Gautam says hi. And then Luis says hi from Ireland. They're having troubles in AWS. Well, if you've got questions, let us know. We've got Uben. Hello. Welcome to the stream, everybody. Really appreciate you chatting hi. Sorry to interrupt you, Mo.
I don't know if you saw this one by Cloud
Oh,
Dog
no.
saying, I live and breathe ECS on EC2. So that's why he's so knowledgeable on this.
So Kyle Falcon Dev, as we go through, because we've got a bunch of these, if you know the answer, just say you know the answer, and then we'll hold the spoiler till later. Because I feel like, yeah, you're too good at this. We're stealing Mo's thunder.
So there was one question about rolling updates, and we have two kind of deployment strategies, but one of them is the rolling update, the other one is the blue-green. But yeah, quick summary. Yeah, this, you can have a whole session talking about this, but quick summary, rolling update, what we're doing, we're kind of replacing the tasks one by one. And what happens is the traffic hitting a service, let's say there's a load balancer, the traffic will go through the old pods, old versions, or old tasks, I'm sorry, and the new tasks. Versus in a blue-green, what you do, you create a new lane, which is the green, with the new version. And then the idea is that you go and test it, and if everything checks out good, then you can switch the traffic to the green lane. So it's really a preference with customers, like if they want to use rolling deployment or blue-green. If a customer doesn't want the traffic to be hitting the old version of a task, then they go with the blue-green deployment.
Oh, look at this one. It says, hi, I'm from Nigeria. Really just studied the ECS today, and this is giving me extra insight on deployment issues on ECS. Love it. Oh, great. That's awesome.
Okay, great. Okay, so how do we fix this problem? Any thoughts?
I mean, I think we had so Kyle Falcon Dev had the Echo my cluster, and you can fix the ECS.config file. Is that how we would fix it?
So we want to fix it for any future EC2 instance that gets provisioned, right? So the way, and we know that these are provisioned via an ASG, part of the capacity provider that we configured here. So there is a capacity provider, is backed by an auto-scaling group. And what we know about auto-scaling group is there is a launch template. And in this launch template,
and that's what Sam's saying. So I have a deal now with Cloud Falcon Dev to not for no spoilers.
Thank you,
Sam. But Sam, you're free to give answers for now.
Okay, let's do what Sam said. So I'm gonna go to the launch template. And in the launch template, I'm gonna go advanced details. And if you scroll down, there's a user data section, which is very similar to exactly the same what I showed here using the CLI command, right? So you'll see that it's empty. So I'm gonna go. Let's go and.
Bless you.
Thank you.
So when you modify a template, basically you're creating a new version.
Right.
So I'm gonna scroll down. Advanced details.
So many details.
Yes.
And what am I gonna put here? The name of the cluster, right?
Right.
what is the name of the cluster?
ECS workshop
Yes.
cluster, right?
My EKS work. My
No, no,
ECS.
ECS.
ECS. See, I'm in last week still.
Yeah, it's ECS workshop cluster.
There
So
you
I'm
go.
gonna go here. Hopefully I did not put a typo. Okay, so
Yeah,
ECS workshop
great.
cluster.
Let's say, wait, I have a question, Mo. Let's say we did mess this up. We put EKS instead
And
of
take like a
ECS.
letter out or something.
Schizophrenic
Yeah.
web developer said, what about rollback?
But roll back to, well, this is the first version that I have. So
Well, no,
Oh, you don't have like a
let's say
different.
we messed this up now. Well,
Yes.
how do we roll back? Do we just say default to different version?
yes,
You
like the
just
ASG
change the
default,
version of
change
the
it to the,
template.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I create a template, so let's go back here. So now I have V1 and V2. So then I'm gonna go to my ASG and I'm gonna point to the latest one, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So now the ASG is pointing to the good one.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna hit save, update, that's save. But now if you look at the launch template, it's the latest.
The latest. Mm-hmm.
So now what do I need to do to force those instances to be replaced?
Refresh the instances.
Yes,
Right.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So we can do an instance refresh. Let's trigger this because it does take some time. And I'm gonna go and start instance refresh. Now, if I click on the activity here, hopefully you should start saying that we're launching new instances. Okay, so what does that mean? If I go back, let's see what's happening. It's gonna take some time because it will. Okay, so now you see there's a third instance came up. And the idea is that this new instance should have the correct cluster name configured, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the ECS agent should be able to register the cluster to the instance to the cluster. So while we wait, let's go back and look at this one here, refresh.
This always takes longer than you think it does.
Yeah, so the this is the instance here. Let's go back to EC2 instances. See, one is initializing. We should have to, okay, there's two initializing.
Mm-hmm.
But if I click on it and go do, I want to see the user data to make sure it has the correct info. So now you see here, it's
Oh,
correct,
cool. Okay.
right?
Yeah, you have it. All right.
Right.
Also, I just want to call out, I'm not going to bring it on screen, but we have some very helpful things going on in the chat. The chat's helping each other with questions here. So I like that our community is helping each other out right now. I have another good question. This might be something that you come to later, Mo, so let me know, which is, can you point out a few metrics that they should monitor? They're in the middle of migrating their EC2 machines to ECS. They're wondering what all metrics they could consider. So I don't know if that's something that we'll get to in a little bit, or if you want to address that now.
Yeah, we can get back to this. But again, regarding this issue here, like, this is kind of like, there's nothing much to check other than the ECS agent logs.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're assuming you have a running cluster, healthy cluster, we have what's called the containers insight and the advanced container insight, and it gives you a lot of metrics that checks the tasks, services, CPU, memory. So observability is a whole different topic, but we do have a lot of built-in metrics and that we provide. But if you notice here, by the way, you see that my instances are now
propagating
registered
into the
because
yes.
so there's two instances that got registered. Okay, so that looks good. Now, if I look at the CloudWatch, of course, and I should not see this error anymore.
Right.
Okay. So how do I test that now? Because I know that the that will be probably the second problem that we're going to show. We're going to try to launch a task. Let me know if I can go to the second problem. Any questions from the audience?
No, you're good.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So now we have the instances registered. So again, we fixed the launch template, right? Because it has an incorrect configuration.
So before we do that, now that we're at the halfway point, I want to just say, folks, as you're seeing on the screen, we're troubleshooting ECS. We just fixed our first problem, and now we're moving on to the second. There you go.
Okay, great. So now that we have the container instances registered, your team wants to explore ECS by running a sample task. However, when they run the task, it stops with a non-zero exit code. So let's see. So what we're going to do right now, we want to run a sample task. And I have different task definitions created here. And one of them is the ECS workshop ECS task definition that we will use to run a task. And for the people who are new to ECS, a task definition is kind of like a JSON manifest where you specify configuration for your containers, for your tasks, such as the image that you need to use, the CPU, the memory, where the log groups, where the logs should be stored. And I'm going to click on this one and show you what that means. So this is a task definition. As you see here, there's a container definition section. It has an image. You have the port mapping, the host port, container port, where the log is going to be stored. If I want to launch it on EC2 or Fargate, and then you have what's called a task role, and this enables the containers to access AWS services, and so on. There's different configurations. But the point here is for this problem that we're trying to fix is it's saying that I go try to create a task and it fails. So let's do that. So I'm going to go to my cluster. I'm going to go to task. I'm going to run new task.
Okay.
I'm going to select my capacity provider that is EC2 backed by NASG, which we just fixed in the earlier.
And quick question here from the chat. Is there any performance difference between a Fargate and EC2 launch types? They're putting you on the spot.
You mean Fargate and EC2?
Mm-hmm.
Probably more. Well, again, no, because I mean, Fargate is, we're just managing the EC2 instances for you. It comes down to when you create a task, and in the task definition, you're going to request CPU and memory. And when you have a Fargate, when you use Fargate, AWS will figure out what instance type to choose based on the request, the CPU request and memory. When you do a EC2, you have more flexibility, more control. So you select the EC2 instance families. But again, if you want to compare EC2 versus Fargate, there's trade-offs. There's use cases where you should use one versus the other. If you want a less management, then Fargate is the way to go. But Fargate can be more expensive. If you want to have a long-running task, more compute, then EC2 would be more appropriate. Fargate is more good for short-running tasks, right? That start and stops. But if something is running all the time, you might want to consider EC2. When it comes cost-wise, Fargate might get more expensive. But again, you don't have the headache of managing the EC2 instance. That's the nice thing about using serverless Fargate. So going back to this, so task, I'm gonna select the, I already select the ASG.
I think that you were talking about like how many instances you wanted, the base, or does that just stay as is?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna use this as default. So
Okay.
right now, I just need to specify the actually the task definition, which is I'm gonna use the ECS workshop task definition, and I'm gonna use revision 1, desired is 1, and I'm gonna hit on create. Let's see what happens.
And we're assuming it's going to fail, right?
Yeah, well, it should. So it's running now.
If it works, then okay, good. All right, great job done, everyone. Bye.
Okay, let's give it a few seconds.
All right. While we wait for that, we have
So
some
while
user
we
says
wait
thanks for
while
sharing.
while we wait for it to fail, and it will fail, it should fail. Where do I look for logs? Okay,
Yeah,
it's
see, too
stopped.
late. It's always when you want it to go longer, it's short, and when you want it to take a while, it's immediate.
You just gotta say that you're gonna move on. And it's like, no, you're not.
Yeah, no, you're not.
Okay, so it failed. Now the question to the audience: where do I look to know why it failed?
Oh, we've got some experts on the line here. So where do we go? This task failed. What do we do?
And the hint is in the task definition.
I'll put on. I think I have some music here. We can use while
We already have.
Oh, okay, too late. All right, I
Yeah.
can't even.
Filter task status stop. Open the stop task, and it should show the error.
Thank you.
Then
So
we
what is
have Cloud Falcon say, can't say we have a deal.
Yeah. We have a deal.
Yeah, so the logs here, by the way, you can also see them in CloudWatch. But here it's only showing you under the details tab. So what does the error say? Error response from daemon name unknown. The repository with the name nginx latest does not exist in the registry.
Oh, so we had a very similar problem last week about the container registry. So I'm interested to see where this goes.
Okay, so let's go back to the task definition, right? Because this is where we specify images. This is where we specify where the logs get written in CloudWatch. So we could have actually went to this group log group name, right? EKS workshop task logs, and saw the same error. But let's look at the image. Okay, so it's saying this image cannot be found. Any idea why? Does this look like the correct image format, which is typically when you have an image, there is the registry, repo, image name, tag.
That sounds like a leading question, Mo.
I'm over here working my Ring Overdrive, trying to figure it out.
So one way is to go to our ECR repo, right?
We have Sam said it should be in that, yeah.
Oh yeah, and then XX then game, NGX latest. So
okay, so let's say Sam is right. Let's say I'm troubleshooting, I don't even know. So I would go to the
I can't make deals with every single commenter. I already blocked Cloud Falcon Dev from telling us the answer.
Let's assume it's Samara and she doesn't know how. So what does she do?
Right. So one
no,
way.
No, don't be. By the way, they're saying Sam's saying sorry. No, don't be sorry. This is what we're asking Pratt to do.
Yes, exactly. I'm just going extra steps with where I would look. So I can go to the ECR public gallery and the nginx image. So if you look at image tags, you'll see that there's no such thing called nginx latest. Right? There is a tag called latest. So if I click latest, that's the correct tag, right? So let's fix it. So let's go here, task definition, create new revision.
Okay.
Actually, I want to create new revision with JSON.
Okay.
And I'm going to put a call in here. Right?
Very simple. Very
simple. Was this human
mistake.
error as well? Whenever a new push, like a change was pushed, it's just like kind of like a miss typo.
Yeah, whether it's through your CI/CD pipeline, you create a new version of your application, you push the new version of the image, and then you go, you update the task definition, you push it to AWS, right? And then somehow the name is incorrect.
Okay.
So now, if you look at my task definitions, you'll see that there's two versions: the old one and the fixed one. So now, if I go back to my cluster, and if I was to go to tasks, run new task, and I'll do exactly the same, and I will select the latest version.
Now you have 2 versions, right? Because you revised it.
Yes, and I would expect this to work. It should start and stop, or actually, in this case, this depending on what this image does, it will just start and I can stop it.
All right.
Okay, it's running.
Oh,
so here you go. No error.
No error.
Yep.
So does that complete problem number 2 now?
This completes number 2. So
Okay.
I'm gonna stop it.
Okay.
You're gonna stop it? Why? It's running.
Yeah. It's not needed, so we stopped.
I think that he's just cleaning it up.
He's
as he
saving
goes.
money. He's saving money.
Saving AWS money.
Wait, he's actually not. You're not though, because technically the EC2 is still running. So.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, we've
So
got.
you're getting charged regardless.
We got about 15 minutes. I think that gives us another time to solve one last problem.
One last problem, yes.
Especially if we're going at the speed at some of our viewers. You might be able to finish two problems.
2 problems.
Yeah, so problem statement, now that you have tested your sample task, your team is planning to use an ECS service. So now it's a service with internet-facing load balancer for long-running stateless application. The load balancer DNS is throwing a 504 gateway timeout or 503 service temporary unavailable error. So let's go back
to networking error.
So we have this service here. ECS.
Okay, so new service.
Okay.
We have not touched this before.
Okay.
Right. So this service, if you look, when we configure a service, we can just specify the task definition and a desired number of tasks that we want, and it will launch the number of tasks. But in this case, we also, which is optional, we fronted it by a application load balancer. So this way, you can access those tasks via round robin fashion through this ALB. Now, if I open this ALB, let's open this load balancer. I have a listener, port 80, and I have target groups. So if I look at the target groups, I notice that there's no registered targets, right? Which is a problem. So what should have happened is we should have had, let's say, 2 tasks. We should have seen the instances as registered
targets for the load balancer, right?
Correct. But we don't see that yet.
That's so not good.
There's some problem.
What do our viewers think? What's the problem here? Or should I tell them not to?
Where will you go look first?
Well, so there's no registered. That's why it's giving a 503. Because it's not hitting anything. That's fair.
Yeah, there's nothing. So that's 503. Okay, so the first thing we should do is look at the task definition, right, that this service is using. So if I go back to the cluster, and what is this task definition here?
It's the definition 1. Isn't that the same problematic one that we had?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So first thing we need to do is update the service to use the right task definition.
Oh, okay. Well, so
let's do that.
The blast radius is a little high on this one.
Yeah. So we just got.
So I want to change this to 2.
To the latest, yes.
Okay, but look at the other thing too. The desired task was set to 0. And this is why. And this
so we got double trouble.
Yeah. So the desired tasks were 0. This means no tasks were launched. This is why nothing was registered to the load balancer.
Oh, we have another hypothesis. Hi, we need to verify in security groups inbound and ECS inbound groups.
I think this is a great call up, but we got to do that after we deploy anything.
Let's
get them in the target groups first.
Yeah. So the last comment. Thank you for whoever. What's his or her name? I'm sorry, I didn't catch the.
Hovhannes. If I'm pronouncing that correctly, I'm sorry.
Okay, he nailed it. So first, let's fix that, right? So I have the latest
revision of the task.
Yeah, the latest version of the task definition, and I put desired task equal to, should I put it 1 or 2?
2. We need to be resilient. Come on.
Yes, we have to think about resiliency.
Yeah, let's put 2 to things that will take longer. Okay, so I'm gonna do an update. Okay, so now I'm expecting tasks to start getting created, but something will happen. Now you're probably gonna start getting the 504.
Yeah, I was gonna say we talked about 503s, so now we fixed 503s because obviously there wasn't anything there. Now we have 504s, which is my favorite thing to get a support case about. Is everyone yelling at me that something's wrong with the ALB and it's a 504 error, and everyone goes, "No, it's your application, sir or madam."
Okay, so let's see here what's going on. So this is pending.
Pending. Say that you're moving on so you can.
Yeah, and here I'm waiting for some target. Okay, so here you go. There's 2 red targets are being registered right now because I launched the task.
Correct. Right? Yeah, and the correct.
It's the correct image. So now let's see what happens. So now, of course, if I try to hit this, I mean, it's still probably not going to go anywhere, but let's give it some time.
Okay.
Okay, so the task is running. So that's good. There should be another one actually launching because I did put 2, right?
But we can also, in the meantime, double check these security rules, right?
Yes. Thank you. To speed up the time because we have 5 minutes left. So let's go to the target groups. So they're unhealthy.
Oh, you already have 2 unhealthy ones.
So why would a load balancer health check fails to? Let's look at the health check. What happens is that it's gonna try to access the instance on this path, port 80, and eventually gets to the task. So somehow the load balancer. And we know that the task is running, right? It says running. So assuming everything is good with the task, why is the load balancer failing to connect? So security group is one thing to look at. Are we allowing the ASG or the load balancer to access the EC2 instances? So let's check. Let's go to the load balancer.
Now we have Sensei health check path.
See, I think we gave a spoiler.
Yeah, by the way, one thing to mention here, because the health check are failed, what ECS, what the load balancer will do, it will start draining those, deregister. ECS will try to start another task, and this whole cycle continues where the load balancer tries to register, fails health check, deregister. So you go into this infinite loop.
Okay.
So by the way, we got 504 right now, gateway timeout, which because you do have the instances, but we're timing out to get a response. So let's quickly go to the security group. So I did identify that my ALB is using this security group, which is 089F. Now let's look at our instances.
And we have a couple of folks saying check the inbound rules. It's not receiving health checks. We need to open ports.
Okay, so this is the instance security group. The inbound. The outbound is fine. We're allowing everything, but look at the inbound. What are we allowing on port 80? We're only allowing those 2 hard-coded source IPs. Are we allowing the load balancer? We're not, because I don't see the security group of the load balancer allowed.
I don't see it there. No.
Right. So how do we fix that? Do I go fix it here temporarily in each instance, or what is the right fix? I can fix it in the instances, the 2 instances, and it'll be fine. But the right way to do it is to fix it in the launch template, right? Or actually go to the
ASG. Okay.
Yeah, Krasamet also agrees with the use as launch template.
Yeah, because if you're going to do this manually, then it's just going to continue on and you have to do it manually for every single instance rather than just do it by the source.
Yep. So let's go to the ASG and we're going to do, let's see here, this is the ASG, edit. Where is the security group? Okay, here we go. Actually, this is the ASG that the security group that is used by the instances. So I'm gonna click on that. So I'm sorry, like we're gonna actually update the security group that the ASG is using, right? So if you look at the inbound rules here, again, we're using only 2 here. So I'm gonna do edit inbound, add a rule for HTTP. And what I need to allow is the security group of the load balancer, which is this one. That one ending with 3F90. Save rule. And why? Because if you look here, this was the security group of my load balancer. So now this is fixed. So now it's just about giving it some time, because if you recall, the targets were being deregistered, right?
So we don't have to redeploy the targets. We can
we
just it just will. Okay.
No, but to speed things up, what we can do is this. We can, if you look at health checks, there's something called, there's some intervals that we set up. One of them is the draining timeout. So let's actually see how we can speed this thing up.
Does anyone have any suggestions in the chat?
I'm gonna check this here, save.
Okay, so the approximate amount of time between health checks of individual. Okay.
Yeah, again, here, I'm just trying to see if I can force it to fail the health check, because there's consecutive time it failed, and then it will deregister and
start the process all over again.
Actually, yeah, attributes here. Okay, here. This is another place that I'm gonna change the deregistration delay draining interval. I'm gonna make it quicker so that I force the things to go through. Okay, so now it's 10 seconds. Okay, bingo.
So let's hit it.
That was
Let's hit the ALB and see if this thing's solved.
Yep.
We did it.
Welcome to Nginx.
Well, folks, that was exciting. I'm gonna pull off your screen. Did you have anything else you wanted to show before I pull your screen off?
No, I mean, we don't have time for the fourth one, I guess.
Sam look, we have a question already about you, Mo. Will Mo join us next week as well? This looks quite interesting.
I'm working with Mo's producer and manager to see if I can get him back on. We had some ECS troubleshooting that we left undone last week, so maybe a future episode. But as always, you can check our community.aws page for the latest news on upcoming episodes, and I'll be sure to shout out which one Mo may or may not be coming on. There's negotiations that have to go in the background. Mo's gonna want a bigger fee for coming on the show again. Kyle Falcon Dev goes, what was the 4th issue? Do we want to, I mean, what do you think? Should we tell them? Or at least tell them what the problem was going to be.
Yeah,
we'll go quickly. So this is basically the team.
I took off your screen. Hold on. Okay.
Oh,
there you go.
This was the problem.
We have it back on.
So yeah, this is about a scheduled task using Amazon EventBridge. So we're trying to automate a process that runs every 2 minutes, and what EventBridge is capable of is able to trigger a task in an ECS cluster. So here the issue is that it's saying that this task is failing, or that triggering this task is failing from EventBridge. So I can quickly go over it.
No, we don't have time. We don't have time. We're cutting you off.
Yeah. So the hint here is that the EventBridge need to have the correct execution role to be able to invoke a task in ECS. And
Sam already got it. You see, you just have to ask the question. Yeah. Thank you. And also I want to thank Cloud Falcon Dev for honoring our deal.
Oh, and by the way, look at what he said. He says, thanks, Mo. I'm Mo as well.
Oh, that's why you do all this stuff. I just want to address quick comments here. So thanks. That was lovely. Thank you, everyone. I need learning resources. Thanks, guys, for this. Yeah, please come back again. We're here every week. Great session. I will not miss next week. Yes, next week, as this LinkedIn user was saying, yes, we're going to talk about blue-green deployments next week. What else? Cool session. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Mo, thank you for coming on.
Yes, thank you
2
so
weeks in a
much.
row.
Yes.
Oh, and someone just said, I just cleared sysops. Congratulations. That's awesome news.
Nice job. Nice job.
Thanks, Sam. We'll
Yes.
see you next week. I don't know. Mo, any closing thoughts on we've gone on this journey together. We've been troubleshooting all this time. Any final words to the audience before we send you on your way?
Yeah, no, thanks. That was good engagement from the audience. So again, the whole intention is to kind of go through this thought process, right? The troubleshooting mindset, on where to go, where to look, what logs, and do the elimination if there's might be multiple issues or multiple root causes. But yeah, troubleshooting,
Right.
this is how people learn and become experts in a service, in my opinion. So thanks for having me again.
No, and
Yeah,
thank you
of
for
course.
coming in. I definitely learned a lot about EKS and ECS. So I truly appreciate you coming in and teaching us more about these two services.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you,
right.
everyone. See you
Thanks,
next Monday.
everybody.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.